I've been noticing on the ABC Jesus Loves Me Facebook page that a lot of people have been struggling with discipline. And I completely understand. And I think a lot of it has to do that in December, moms, we are tired. And when you're tired, you don't discipline the way you should. For me, I find that I fall into a lot of armchair parenting where I'm kind of barking orders instead of truly getting to the heart of the issue that I need to work with. I also find that there's less time to focus on those issues that you are having trouble with because you are so you're so your mind is wandering and you're working on getting everything ready. And then also you have family around, and it's harder to discipline when you have family around. So what we're going to talk about today is how to set boundaries. But then also, I'm going to show you my favorite consequence for toddler and preschoolers so that you can be working on that at home and then be able to use that when you are with family. If you are new to ABC Jesus Loves Me, and my name is Heidi, and I'm the writer and creator, and I really enjoy being able to do these live broadcasts with you. So you hear the word boundaries all the time. And for some of you, that has a very negative connotation, but I want to let you know that there is safety in boundaries. Here's a quote from Jody Burnt, who is the writer of Praying the Scriptures for Your Children. She said, God's commands, or boundaries, I will say, God's boundaries or commands are not meant to limit our freedom. Rather, they are meant to protect us and show us how to live life to the fullest. They're meant to protect us and show us how to live life to the fullest. And I want you to think about that as we talk about placing safe and loving boundaries around your children. First of all, when you're thinking about boundaries, we want to think about boundaries that have the future or the end in mind. And I'm going to give you two examples to kind of help you understand what I'm talking about that. But when you're setting boundaries up for your children, you want to have the end in mind. And one of those examples that we use in our house is that when my kiddos were little, they were only allowed to eat while they were sitting on the floor or sitting at the table. And then also, I decided when and where they ate or drank their water or juice or milk or whatever it was at the time. So the reason why we did this is because when we went to a restaurant or went to a friend's house or grandparents, I wanted them to understand that they got a drink first by asking, and we did that by sitting down. And this is important because we were showing respect to the people whose house we were visiting. And then in restaurants, they were used to sitting while eating or drinking. So that is one of those boundaries that we put up for our kids with the end in mind. Here's a second one, electronics. Now, our kids don't do a lot of electronics, but we're creeping into more and more of those teenage years where electronics are going to be part of our lives. One of the things that we did even when they were little is nobody played with electronics without permission. Also, electronics are never done in the bedroom when friends are around. And these are boundaries that we put up so then when they were teenagers and the electronics were used more for studying or even for their quiet times, they understood what the rules were and those were already put into place. So those are just two examples of when they were young, of boundaries that we put into place so that it would work for when they were older. So I'm going to ask a question, and I want you to comment or show your thumbs up or smiley faces or thumbs down based upon if you agree or not with my question. So here's the question. Boundaries are the same for both parents. Boundaries must be the same for both parents. If you agree with that, either leave a comment or just give me a thumbs up to show me that you agree with that comment, and then we're going to talk about it. Boundaries should be the same. Boundaries must be the same for both parents. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up on that. And that's true. It is very, very confusing for kiddos when the boundaries are different between the mom and the dad. Now, if your spouse is not on the same page, that doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries. It just means you're going to have to do a little bit of tweaking so that the kids understand those boundaries are there for their safety and because you love them. Okay, here's the second question. Boundaries must be the same for each child. I'll repeat that. Boundaries must be the same for each child in your home. Give me a thumbs up if you agree or a thumbs down if you disagree. Boundaries must be the same for each child in your home. Okay, we're getting those thumbs up and thumbs down. See what everybody thinks. This is one of those questions that can trick people a lot. They're not really sure, how do we answer that? Bambi says, I don't think so. Rebecca says, this is a blurred one for me. Yes, and you're not alone, Rebecca. This is a blurred question. So let's talk about it just for a few minutes. First of all, fair does not mean equal, and that is so important. Fair does not mean equal. Remember the Bible verse. It says to train up the child in the way that he should go. It does not say to train up every child in the same way. Every child was created in a unique and amazing way. I hear a lot of parents tell me, well, that wouldn't be fair. A sister gets a toy, so the brother has to get a toy. Or at birthday parties, parents ask that people bring gifts for each of their children. While I understand what they're trying to do, remember that fair does not mean equal. It is okay to celebrate that one child and for that one child to have their special day. So as you're thinking about setting up the boundaries, remember that the boundaries are going to be different sometimes for one child versus another child. We have very different personalities between our 4 kids. With Sweet Pea, she is more of my rule follower. And so her boundaries are different than Little Man, who is my spirited little child. So think about that life is not equal, and we don't want it to be in our home either. Okay, now we're going to talk about my favorite consequence. So once that you have put those boundaries in place and you have made them fair for that child, what happens when they don't want to follow those boundaries? On the ABC Jesus Loves Me Facebook group, I talk a lot about the Uh-Oh song. And the Uh-Oh song comes from the Love and Logic books. This is a book, it is my go-to parenting book that I suggest be in every home. And in this book is suggested the Uh-Oh song. Now, let me kind of explain. First of all, it's really not a song. And I know that's kind of confusing, but it's really just 2 unsung tones, like uh-oh, uh-oh. That's all it is. And we use this when a child has made a poor decision. And instead of using our words to explain what they've done, to beg them to not make that choice again, we are just going to say, uh-oh. Now, let me explain. Let me back up just a little bit. First of all, I only suggest the Uh-Oh song for those who are under 4 years of age. It is suggested in the Love and Logic book that the Uh-Oh song only be used for those kiddos that you can safely carry. Okay, so with that in mind, when your child does something, let's say they pick up a toy and they throw it across the room, and you have trained them not to throw their toy, so they know this is not okay to do, then all you would say is, uh-oh. You would walk to the child, you would gently take their hand or pick them up, whichever you need to do, and carry them to a safe area. That could be a crib, that could be a timeout corner, wherever it is a safe place for that child to sit. Once the child is calm, they're allowed to get out of that timeout place, or you can go to them and remove them from their crib. That is, again, they have to be calm. Then all you do is take them out of the timeout place or out of their crib, and they go back to play. There's no conversation. There is no long drawn out reminders of what they did wrong. It is simply, uh-oh, they made this mistake, they calm down, and they come back. I find that a lot of times as parents, we feel like we need to go through this dissertation of what the child did wrong and why it was wrong and what they need to do differently, when in reality, if we have done the training portion, the child knows what they've done wrong. And so there is no reason for us to go through it over and over and over and over again. Simply, uh-oh, remove the child. They are allowed to come back when they're calm. Okay, I see that Augustine has a question. So let me read this question and then be sure to leave your other questions that you have, and I'll try to get to those as well. What happens when they just melt down instead of calming down? That's a great question. And in this situation, you would just allow them to calm down longer. They're going to have longer time in that timeout spot for them to get themselves under control. So for some kiddos, it might mean that they don't have to sit very long. Others might need to sit a few minutes to calm down. I personally really like using the crib for these little ones because then they cannot leave, and then you are in control of when they leave and when they don't leave. Now, there is a lot of concern that that will cause issues at night. I have never seen a problem with this, and I don't believe that is a typical situation. The one thing to do is wherever their timeout place is, whether it's in their crib or in a timeout spot, it does not have any toys or any activities for them. So during the day, my kiddos' cribs were emptied with just the sheet for them to go in and sit. And then when they calmed down, I would go get them, and then they were able to go back to play. Again, no conversation during this. This is what is so key about this. No conversation. You can give them a hug, but then just move on and be done. Heather says, I remind my daughter once when you are done fussing, you can get up and it helps. And Heather, that might be something that you need to do with your child, and that is completely fine. Some kids, though, if you have any conversation at all, especially once you get to that 3-year-old stage, they just want to argue with you. And so it's best to say nothing, because they know when you say, uh-oh, that already means you are going to go to your timeout spot. When you are calm, mommy will come back and we will start our time again, or our playtime again. Great questions. If you have more questions, please comment those on the Facebook. Augustine says, I remind mine too, but lately she gets worse. And she may get worse. A lot of times what happens is that you need to step back for a moment and go, okay, what am I doing to fuel this fit? What am I doing to fuel this meltdown? And when we step back for a moment and ask your husband to help you, say, hey, what am I doing in this moment that is causing her to have a bigger meltdown? And a lot of times when you step back, you realize, oh, wow, I am giving her that attention that she wants. Or last time when she had that meltdown, I went in and I said something to her. I talked to her. And that gave her the feeling that if I throw a big enough fit, I'm going to get what I want. And a lot of times, if you will stop whatever you're doing to fuel that fire, they will realize it is way too much energy to throw a fit like this and have a meltdown. It's much easier for me to just do what I need to do. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Look to see, what am I doing to fuel this? Whether it is I'm talking, I'm giving eye contact, I am getting angry. Some kids, as crazy it sounds, some kids, they love to see parents get angry. And so if you are getting angry, you are giving emotion. And that's one of the keys. Remove the emotion to this uh-oh song. Great question. Any other questions? I will be happy to answer those. Go ahead and comment those. I wanted to also say, if you have a child who is big enough that you can no longer safely carry to a place, I would not use the uh-oh system anymore. Again, that is just for the younger kids. I would then move into what I call an energy drain. And that is just where you say that you are draining my energy. And when the child is draining your energy, you don't have the energy for the things the child really wants to do. And that could be that you don't have the energy to take the child to a birthday party that day. And the child's going to have to refuel your energy. And we'll do a live broadcast soon where I will go into more details about the energy drain. And then for older kids in middle school and high school, I suggest the B does not happen until A is complete. And that comes from Dr. Lehman's book, Have a New Kid by Friday. And what that means is B does not happen until A is completed, means that B, whatever they're wanting to do, is not going to occur until A, what you are asking them to do, is completed. And again, this is kind of like the energy drain, but the concept for the older kids is if you told them that they were supposed to clean out the garage by supper time, but then that doesn't get done, and after supper they need to go to a basketball game. Well, when the garage is cleaned up, I'll be happy to take you to that game that you need to go to. So again, that comes from Have a New Kid by Friday. If you are on Right Now Media, Dr. Kevin Lehman has a live broadcast. I'm sorry, it is a taped broadcast that he has on Right Now Media called Have a New Kid by Friday, and I encourage you to watch that. So those are just two of the books. The Love and Logic books I highly encourage, as well as Kevin Lehman books. All of those are great. If you are struggling with your foundation in parenting, the one thing that I would suggest is reading the Paul Tripp book, Parenting. It is fantastic for helping you decide what biblical parenting looks like. And one more, just because this is a book that, again, I feel should be in every family's library, and it is called A Lifelong Love by Gary Thomas. Again, this one is on Right Now Media that you can watch. My husband and I just spent a few days watching these videos, and they were life-changing.